Thank you. Well, I appreciate you all staying till the very end. I know there are at least 2 people out there that are not related to me, so that makes me feel really good, because I want to talk to you about a very serious subject, and it's a subject that I am very passionate about, and it's education, public education. So you may know that public education in America is a relatively new phenomenon. In the 1840s, there were a couple of reformers, wild-eyed guys, who said, we think really public education should be available to everyone, not just the wealthy. We think it'll unite our communities, it'll decrease poverty, and it'll decrease crime. And we want to make that happen. And so these 2 men led that reform movement. And how did education look in that very beginning? Well, there was the McGuffey's Reader. That's how it started. It took us about 60 years later, and we introduced pencils into the classroom. About 40 years after that, big, broad stroke of genius, we had mimeograph machines. Anybody remember what a mimeograph machine is? Purple color, yep. About 30 years later, we had something that was, I think, originally banned from the classroom. I know it was from mine, and that is the handheld calculator. A couple of decades after that, we had the interactive smart whiteboard. I think that was about in 1999. And now we're in 2010. It's just a little bit later, and we have the iPad, where you can not only get your McGuffey's Reader, but you can get any other piece of information you want from around the world right here in a second. So the world has changed for our kids. They're learning in a lot of different ways, often not at school. So which one of these things is not like the other? You guessed it, it's our public education system. Because often our kids are learning the way I learned. They're still writing in cursive in a handwritten newspaper that must be provided in segments. So 50 minutes of English and 50 minutes of math and 50 minutes of history, all completely disconnected. It's not critical thinking skills for today's innovative society, because our kids are digital learners. They are digital natives, as many people call them. So let me give you some statistics about how that whole education system and its refusal to change, to go to our kids, trying to make our kids stay with what their grandparents did. Let me tell you how that's working for us here in America. Well, every 26 seconds, oh, sorry, I forgot that slide, Matt. I should have prompted me. So this is how our kids are learning. Sorry, 76% of these kids have iPods, 66% mobile phones, 29% laptops, and that's how they're learning. 82% of the kids in America, 82% are gamers. But how does that work for us? Because the education system hasn't moved to where they are. Every 26 seconds in America, according to General Colin Powell's group, America's Promise, a kid drops out of high school. The United States ranks 7th in people of college degrees among nations. 7th, not first. That might be shocking to you. More shocking, I think, is that we rank 35th in terms of countries in math. And we rank 29th in science, just behind Latvia. So how is that working for us, that public education won't respond to our kids where they are today? 65% of people in America's prisons are high school dropouts. So dropping out of high school is literally a sentence to prison. And if you don't find that morally unacceptable, let me tell you that it is economically unsustainable. Dropouts earn less, much less than those who complete their high school degree or their college degree, and they each cost you $260,000 a year. But even if they're graduated from high school, McKinsey & Co., in a study done last year for Tulsa Public Schools, found that only 7% of them were ready to move on to the next step without remediation. And that's not an unusual statistic in this nation. And that remediation costs us in Oklahoma $40 million a year. Now, I know what many of you are saying, because I've been all over this state talking about this issue, and I get 2 arguments. Well, if we just had more money and we just had more parental involvement, the problem would be solved. And I'm not going to argue with you that that would help. But let me talk to you about the statistics in today's world. In Oklahoma last year, 2008, last year's statistics are available, 40% of the babies born were born to single moms. So are you going to give up on that kid because the house that they were born in, because those moms are working and going to school and trying to keep their economic head above water for their kid, and they probably don't have time to get involved in school, and in fact they may have had a bad school experience and don't value it, but do you give up on that child? I don't think so. And in fact, in adjusted dollars, we've had a 139% increase in spending in education from 1970 to 2007. Yet, somehow, the dollars don't seem to be making an impact because we've had no change in the academic performance of those kids, at least in a national test for reading. So, what is the answer? Is it the student-teacher ratio? We've decreased that from 22 to 1 to 16 to 1. No change in academic performance. Parental involvement. I've given you the statistics about single moms, but let me tell you another story. As I was going across the state, and one of the parents said to me, my school doesn't want me to be involved in my kid's life. And I said, why do you think that? And they took their BlackBerry and they held it in my face. And I said, explain that to me. And they said, it's the only place in my life where I have to go on break at work, pick up the phone, find the teacher while he or she is on break, and set up a face-to-face meeting where I take off work once or twice a year to find out if Johnny or Jane is doing okay, and by the time I see the teacher, it's too late for me to do anything. So what if we demanded that there was a change in that paradigm? What if we used cloud computing, we used Skype to be able to real-time get involved in our parents, in our kids' education? Shouldn't there be an app for parental involvement? In fact, you may know there is one right now at Tulsa Edison High School. So what if we didn't have a scene that looked like this, where in the 1840s and 2010, the classrooms for our kids look pretty much the same. It's the little red schoolhouse that Horace Mann envisioned to help unite our communities and decrease poverty and decrease crime. What if we met kids where they are? What if instead of locking their cell phones in their locker so all they can think about during class is how they're going to get it out to send the next text, we see cell phones as tools, not enemies? What if we let kids do what they did in Queens last summer at a free program where they actually used cell phones to see what was being emitted from idling city buses? It was illegal for any city vehicle to be idling, and they got to impact public policy and use their cell phones and be interactive. What if we loaded every cell phone with the NOAA program, which is like Shazam for bugs and trees, so that you can go on a field trip and you take a picture of that bug in that tree and it immediately feeds back to you encyclopedic and interesting information about what you're doing real time, which is what our kids expect today. Now, there are pockets of excellence. We have seen online learning increase dramatically over the last 5 years, and I've been to an online learning facility. One of the best in the nation is in Oklahoma City, and I've seen these teachers in a collaborative learning environment where they are charged up about teaching kids everything from Shakespeare to increasing their speaking prowess to science. And it's kids that can't get to that little red schoolhouse or don't want to be in that little red schoolhouse, or it's not the right place for them, but in fact, they're learning. So what if they were like Crescent, Oklahoma? It's a small school district outside of Oklahoma City where they got rid of all the textbooks about 4 years ago. Not budget cuts. I know it sounds scandalous, but they load all their lessons on laptop computers for every kid, and it's been a great success. What if we got rid of the pencils of our grandparents' age and we used technology as a tool? Now, I'm not telling you technology is a solution, but I am telling you this. It's a required tool in the toolbox, and with the statistics that we have, we need every tool that we can get. So what if we demand the paradigm for our kids' education, for America's future competitiveness? What if we demand that it be changed? And what if we met those 82% I talked about earlier, the gamers? What if we met them where they live, where they reside, where they learn, where they are excited about failing at a game only to get better and better and better and keep trying? Because you may think that gaming is ruining the world, but in fact, studies show that kids who game actually make decisions faster, intake information better. It's not hurting them, it's helping them. And it's not humiliating them with an F they have to take home to their parents, it's encouraging them to learn and to achieve. So I can tell you this, there are a lot of options to solving public education, and there are many books and experts that have written on it. What I do know, and I have learned over the last year, is that there can be no acceptance of the status quo. We cannot allow our kids to drop out, to go to prison, to increase poverty, to increase crime. If we want to keep America competitive, we cannot fail our kids. Thank you.